Today in the bunker, we're going to make a factory suitable for the wasteland. This is a used kit, and like most of the time with used kits, you've got some pieces missing and or broken. In this case, the water tank is there, but the other bracket for the water tank, the legs, is not, so we'll have to scratch those together. It did have the chimney. The front wall is broken, and that's kind of a common element with these. It's not really a problem. There was an adhesive on here that I scraped off. It may have been PVA, but we're going to repair that with some Plastruct cement, and we're going to back it with just a piece of plastic card. And then the rest of the pieces are pretty basic. The roof is there. The skylights, we're going to detail those because they're a little flat and lifeless. Plastruct cement, if you've never used it, it literally is a plastic weld product. We'll put it on both sides of what we're going to glue together. I kind of scratched that to rough it up a little bit. You probably don't really need to do it. It's a chemical reaction, but I figure it'll give it a little more surface area to grab. So we'll just paint some on there. Paint some on the other side. Just hold that for about 30 seconds and it'll form a pretty good bond. Then you can wick in around the edges to complete that, and then we'll put this together and do the same thing. And as you glue it, I glued the tab on there at the bottom, and then I glued this top part and held it, and you can kind of stitch it together as you go. I don't get a lot of luck with doing the whole thing at once. Your mileage may vary. One of the keys to working with this material is to let it soften up a little bit and then kind of squeeze the parts together, and you'll see that it'll pick up material from both sides and start to kind of fill in that gap a little bit. And you could also take some shavings of some appropriate plastic, mix it with that glue and put it in there as a filler. We're going to use those cracks kind of to our benefit because it's a post-apocalyptic building, so hey, why not? But if you could, if you were patient and just took your time doing that, which I guess would be being patient, you could fill that back in probably almost to the point you couldn't tell. One of the nice features of this particular kit is if you have the loading dock, that makes a convenient way to kind of square everything up, because that kind of squeezes into it and pushes everything together. But there it is, dry fit. It's a nice building. I think once we throw a few details on there and everything and age it, it's going to look great. To do some detailing around the windows, I'm going to use this evergreen strip styrene. If you don't have this, that's fine. You could cut some very thin pieces of chipboard and do around there. We're just going to do kind of around the windows, just to give it a little bit more visual interest. It's just not so flat. And then for the water tank, I'm going to use a similar product. It's just a different size, evergreen. Where'd it go? No, I'm sorry, this is Plastruct, but everybody makes this same stuff. It's 1.5 by 3.2 millimeters, which is almost exactly the same size as the original legs on this, so that was kind of cool. But we're just going to cut some pieces to fit on there and make the other two legs. And we'll glue them all with that Plastruct. Even that little bit of strip plastic really sells the idea that that's a window, you know, or a skylight. So I'm going to do that to the other ones. We're going to leave that one broken. We'll have some broken glass in there, and we'll continue on. Okay, and with a little bit of patient cutting and filing a little bit and some careful gluing, I made the other braces. So those should look pretty good once they're painted. It helps that that stuff, the material, was just about exactly the same thickness as the rest of it, so it fit in pretty well. But you could easily use something of a different thickness and then it would just look improvised, and that's fine. We're going to dress up this with some Plasticard and some rivets and whatnot in a bit. We've got our window frames done. Those were very easy to do. Just took a few minutes to cut those to size and glue them down, but it added so much. And while I had the plastic stuff out, I went ahead and built that frame around the signage, because everything in Plasticville says Plasticville, so we're just going to cover it up. I think we're going to go ahead and make a shade for this door, and we'll figure out what we're going to do about the door, because we probably don't want glass doors. We'll probably cover that up with something, and we'll start getting ready to put this building together. Alright, so here's everything dry fit again. In order to make a cover for this entrance, I'm going to take one of the pieces left over from the build I did with the mobile homes. This was a piece of that. I'm going to cut a portion of it off so that it'll fit on there, and it should fit just about perfect. In the meantime, you can see we did the legs of the water tower. That works pretty well. We're going to dress up some other things on here. Alright, I've added our shade over our entrance, and I've also, let me find something, this. Hopefully that'll come through. I put some screen behind that door, and I just glued it in place so that it was fairly tight against it to make it look like safety glass. So that took care of the problem of the glass doors and why they're still intact. So we're going to do the same thing on these door sections. I'm just going to glue some screen behind it at a diagonal and make it look like safety glass in there. I ended up filing the little index tabs on each section of the wall. Some of them wanted to stick, and I was afraid I was going to end up breaking this because it's just, some pieces are a tad brittle. So I filed them all so they're very loose, and then I went ahead and just put painter's tape on each of the corners to hold them together snugly. And put this into the loading dock to kind of square it up. And we can put our roof on to check. The roof's a little bit bent. We can work with that. So that fits well. Sometimes you can take these, and what I've done here is I filed the bottom at an angle so that it kind of tapers in, and that'll help fit that to the building. So I'm going to take some Plastruct cement, and we're just going to go and apply that to the tabs just to get an initial bond, and then we'll go back and I'll apply it on all of the seams where the walls come together. And that, once that dries, that'll give us a pretty solid body of the building. While the wall section's dry, we're going to take the roof section and we're going to spruce it up. It's really just flat and dull and sort of boring. So we're going to take some of this textured paste and we're going to apply it on here so we can make this look like a graveled industrial roof. Actually, we're just going to take a little bit of this at a time and just stipple this on. It doesn't take a lot to get a nice texture, which once it's dried we can then dry brush and it'll look pretty good, I think. I've done this before. It works well for concrete. It works well for graveled appearance. Alternatively, if you don't have any of this, you could take some very fine sand and apply it with PVA. That should be fine too. This is plastic. It shouldn't warp any more than it's already warped. Alright, so we'll get that applied. While the roof is drying, I started looking through my bits box and found these leftover pieces from the TT Combat train build. These were like a cooling vent from the side of the train cars. I took some of that mesh and put it behind it, and what I'm going to use this for is vents, and I'll place them on the walls up towards the roof just for extra visual interest, just for greebling, and I'm still going to look for more greebles. Hopefully I can find something useful. To add a little more visual interest to the roof, we're going to add some corrugated pieces to these skylight sections, and that'll, because they're sort of plain also. Alternatively, you could take, you could add some sections with rivets. You could do all kinds of things. This is just, I have this corrugated paper, so I'm going to use that, and we'll fit some pieces on there and glue them on. You put these on, I try to overlap longer sections. Otherwise they just look like really, really super long corrugated bits, which doesn't make a lot of visual sense. So I take and just score a line on that paper backing of this corrugated paper, and you can very carefully peel off a section, and then that will neatly overlap with the adjoining section. If you're rolling these on your own with a crimper, then you don't have to worry about that. One note I've got is when I used super glue to glue these down and did not pay attention to lining it up with the very front first. I just kind of slapped it on there. Well, with this paper and super glue, you don't have any working time to move it. Once you slap it down, that's where it goes. So I managed to get it kind of crooked. Given again that, you know, hey, it's post-apocalyptic, there's been quakes and everything else, that's fine. If you wanted it to be straight, I don't blame you, then definitely align it along the front first and then lay it down into the glue that way, and that'll keep it nice and even. I had to take a bit of a break to charge my phone so I could continue filming. While I was doing that, I went ahead and added a floor and went ahead and primed the building and got all kinds of grit on it. It was great. I also attempted to paint the clear glass doors not once but twice, so hopefully they've survived. So we're going to take a look at all of these bits, which we've got some good primer on, and we'll start to add things like our vents and all that good stuff. I forgot to add, on the water tank it was just blank, so I took and added a piece of that corrugated paper, just wrapped that around there, and glued that on, so that should paint up nicely. I've touched up the places where I missed with the primer. I've also painted some spots black where these vents are going to go. I gave them a gunmetal coat. I'm going to paint them a little more rusty, and then I'll put them over the black, and then we'll paint around that. And we're going to make, I believe the bricks are going to be kind of a brick color, and then we're going to do tan on the upper walls just to kind of give a different color profile for most of the other buildings I've done so far. Because we're going to paint the bricks kind of a brick color, I'm just taking some white craft paint thinned out with a little bit of water and just laying it down in there where the mortar would be. And we'll just wipe it off with our finger if any extra gets on, and then we're going to go back and paint with a sponge the brick color, and that'll keep it out of those mortar lines. Alright, the initial colors are applied. Our sponged on tan, our sponged on brick color. The mortar really helps sell that brick look. So we're going to start doing some of the details. I'm going to clean up around this entrance where the sign will be. We're going to put some gunmetal on the windows, repaint our vents, do our doors, and then we'll get ready to start doing a little bit of aging on this. Also, we have to paint the loading dock, which would be sponged grays, and then we're going to do some metallics on the chimney and the water tank. After I've added a little bit of color, it greatly improved the appearance of the factory overall. One of the other things I did, besides doing my usual rusting techniques and some staining, of course we added a sign, is I forgot I had this and I found it, so I took, and it's from Green Stuff World, which is unfortunate, but I bought that before I realized how terrible they are. I took a paper lunch bag and just put some color on it, various fall colors. If you had like some construction paper, that would be ideal because it would be on both sides. And then just put dabs of PVA and just put the leaves on there, and that really gives it a nice abandoned look. I'm going to go back and add those to some of my previous builds. I really enjoy the way they look. So, but we've got our rusty water tank, we've got our stack, of course our rusty corrugated iron, all of our rusty windows. So, and when this is all together, this fits the loading dock like this. So it's not a bad kit at all, and as you can see, you can dress it up a little bit, just add some bits, and it makes a huge difference. One other thing, I did a test, and now I won't be able to find the test piece I did. Okay, well, I did a test of gluing the mesh directly to the clear plastic with PVA glue, just white glue, and it worked pretty well. It took a very long, it was like overnight before it dried clear. It still got a little bit of a kind of a weird appearance if you look at it at certain angles, but overall it would have worked great here. I kind of wish I'd done it now, but it took so long to dry I couldn't tell that it was going to work. Another thing you could add, and I may go back and put in, is some plastic sheet, clear plastic sheet, to make some broken panes of glass in there, or even in these windows. You could board these over. You could put the mesh behind them, sort of a fortified look. I'm kind of going with just abandoned on this one. I may go back and add that, who knows. All right, there's our completed factory, ready for the wasteland or zombie apocalypse or whatever dystopian future you're foreseeing, maybe 2024, who knows. But in any case, this is a great kit. I thought it made a pretty good build. So if you have the chance to get one of these, it's worth a buy. And you can definitely kit bash it into something really cool. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day.